And joining us is a gentleman who also is no stranger to the Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to attorney at law, Brian Baig. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mikey, and good evening to your viewers and listeners.
Yes, indeed. For those who don't know, I believe Minister Dial Singh is your MP?
Well, he is the elected MP for St. Joseph, yes, and I live in St. Joseph. I only just got to hear what happened to the Member of Parliament. I mean, I am so sorry it happened to him. It's actually right down the road from by me, by a known bar called Nyabingi, where he frequents a lot. And I am very, very, very disturbed further that, again, this is in St. Joseph. Crime in St. Joseph has been very high. I am a victim of crime myself as I suffered a home invasion about a year or so or more. I'm still waiting to hear what's happening with that. No word from the investigators. But maybe Minister Dial Singh may get some justice as he is a cabinet minister. And if I may use the term from MP Dr. Munilal, crime has now reached the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where a senior cabinet minister has now been robbed. A member of parliament has now been robbed. And this is something that I hope and I pray that the government take crime serious now. Because you could see from the videos that are all over the country that the MP and minister was totally traumatized, totally upset by what had happened to him. Because he maybe believed that this could have never happened to him. I never thought that a man would have come into my house and robbed me. But it has happened. It has happened to him now. Again, I hope that he is okay. He didn't look like he was physically hurt, but that mental trauma, Mikey, stays with you, eh?
Yeah.
I can tell you, because I still feel that. So
but when you look at it, I mean, we're talking about the MP for the area. I mean, one would think that, listen, there's a line drawn in the sand, and again, criminal behavior on anyone, I don't condone it, regardless of who you are. But yet still one would think that, this is the MP. Perhaps I could have a conversation with him about some opportunity, some sort of job, employment, something that we can do in the area. But it seems as though at this point in time, and I know that's the issue you wanted to touch on, is this whole issue of crime. It seems at this point in time, the criminal elements are like, listen, we simply do not care. We just don't care, regardless of what.
My friend, criminals don't care. They will not study, this is the MP, let me do that. The boss our work. No, they know what they are coming to do. And crime on a whole is so out of control. Because I heard where a deputy commissioner of police is saying that crime is under control. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know what part of this country you're living in, but crime is out of control. Your home invasions are increased, robberies are increased, but murder rate continues to go. And then all you're hearing is, we have it under control. Well, I don't know how they're having it under control. Maybe we're in the twilight zone. But this also affects our economy, it affects our business, it affects everything. It affects all walks of life. I mean, as a person myself, I am now always wary of where I go, I'm wary of where I operate. I had to increase security at my home. I have private security coming to my home every day, 24 hours. I am always on they will call the file, Mr. Baig, where are you at? And things like that. And that should not be. And this is an indictment upon the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where I hope that maybe Minister Dial Singh could go into cabinet and now tell the Prime Minister, well, boss, here we go. I get robbed too. I think we need to do something. And I think what he needs to do, I was going to use it as my closing, but I'll still use it in my closing, that this government needs to call a general election. If not for no other reason, but for the crime in this country.
Yeah. You know what stood out in that video as well is that he mentioned it's 5 p.m. as if broad daylight is something that, is a deterrent when it comes to criminal activity. I mean, whether it be midnight, whether it be 2, 3 o'clock, or 4 p.m. in the day, it just simply does not matter. But does that resonate in the minds of those who are making the key decisions here to deal with this crime situation? Is it that they still believe that, listen, there are certain things that have to be played out in order for criminal activity to actually take place? Yes, there are things that would generate that, but still believing that, it's broad daylight, it's senior citizens, it's those who are most vulnerable in society, that somebody's going to say hats off to them. I mean, should I say hands off to them and just let them go. I mean, but that's not the reality.
It's not the reality at all, because when I listen to this commissioner of police, Mikey, and it pains me to listen to her, where she was just on national television the other day, and she's telling the country that crime is low. Well, again, I have to ask, where is she living? Maybe crime around her is low because she is the commissioner of police. Well, maybe and God forbid, we don't hear that something happens to one of them. Because we've seen where the people who you think is untouchable are now becoming touched. Where you have a cabinet minister. So, I mean, I can't understand these people at all. Yeah. And our nation, you could imagine, Mr. Dial Singh must be somewhere sitting down saying, I now see what the nation is feeling. I now see what the nation is going through. We just saw where a whole family was wiped out. We saw where a mother and children was put into a water tank. We have seen where families all over this country are suffering from crime. Families are suffering not only from crime, but from other things. And then we have a system in this country that needs fixing, Mikey.
Yeah.
We have a judicial system that definitely needs fixing.
Tell us about that. Expand on that, please.
I mean, I listened to the plans of the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Kamala Prasad, who is a senior counsel, and I support her plans to reform our judiciary. We definitely are in need of a Ministry of Justice. We are definitely in need of a ministry to handle our judicial system. We are definitely in need of more courts. We need more judges. We need more magistrates. We need more masters, right? Because you have where some magistrates are going on leave, and then what happens? They go back, they bring them back on contract. And what happens to them? You know their job is, Mikey? Is to hear maybe a charge case, or to hear a matter that is now brought to them, and then they transfer it. And that shouldn't be. We should have more persons being appointed to the bench. We should have also special courts being put in place. Where is the gun court that this government has been promising for years? That has never come. Where is the special drug court that when Faraz, and you could remember that, when Faraz Alwari was Attorney General in 2016, when the PNM first came into office under Dr. Rowley, and they talked about creating a drug court within the court, within the prison, sorry. And I mean, that's ridiculous. It never was going to happen. And we told them that will never happen. And then it shows again, we need to have as well special courts to deal with special type of matters. We have murder. Murder should be in classes where we have first degree, second degree, third degree. And that way they're able to be dealt with much quickly. And that happens in every developing society. I'm not even going to say first world, I'm going to say developing society. It's happening in other countries, but yet it can't happen here. And those were the plans that was put under the People's Partnership, and the leader of the opposition has bring it back. And I think that is a very good plan to have.
Yeah, and I have to ask you this, Mr. Baig. I did hear those plans, and I agree with you. They're laid out well. But there's always seems to be an underlining with the current administration, and I need to ask you, on a percentage scale of 100, how much would you say there has been political interference in the justice system?
Well, no, you're asking me a very difficult question. That I would say, if there's any political interference, I would say as a percentage, maybe about under 50%, but don't hold me to that. It could be more, it could be less. Because we have seen where certain persons has come to court who are of a certain ilk, and things happen in their favor. But then there are others who may not be friends of the government. We see what happens to them as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and it's frightening. I mean, that answer is frightening. I mean, you're talking about maybe about 45%. I mean, the mere fact that it even exists, to me, it's a problem. Because, again, justice is something that must be served, and it must be served basically on the facts, the fundamentals, everything that is laid out.
But in addition to that, Mikey, we have a government who has been talking about we had a prime minister who said we squat at the Privy Council. Well, I want to tell that prime minister something is seriously wrong with you, sir. Because we're not squatters at the Privy Council. We have a right to be at the Privy Council because this is our final appellate court. A squatter is a person who has no right to be anywhere because they would be deemed as a squatter because they have no rights to be at a property. We have a right to be there because it's our final appellate court. But I want to hear, what is his view now? The fact that the government went to the Privy Council and won two matters. Are they going to say get rid of it? And I will say this today and now, that the day this government comes to get rid of the Privy Council, I know that will be fought and fought hard. Because that, you do have to come to the Parliament. And that will be fought hard. Because the Privy Council has showed why it is needed and why it should be retained as our final appellate court.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right, really and truly. And I always say that many people would say they would take their chances with the Privy Council than anything that may be organized as far as within at the Inter-Caribbean region. But some say, of course, that is somewhere hindering our development as a people and as a nation. What say you?
I must disagree because it shows that our jurisprudence continues to show where we can go as a nation. Because if we have to say, well, let's have our own appellate court. But we have seen the problems there. The issue of who comprises it, who shall comprise it, and then you have to study, well, we are such a small region that these things tend to overlap and someone may know what is happening. And the Privy Council, they don't study that. The Privy Council looks at what is brought before them. And that is why the law lords are always, if you read their judgments are always on what is brought before them. They don't care if snow falls in Trinidad. They will care about what is happening in Trinidad in the form of what is brought before them. Not about bacchanal. They don't study who don't like who. No, they study every case that is brought before them. But if you come to where you want to bring it home and have your own appellate court, we know what happens here in Trinidad, and we must ensure that doesn't happen. And we must fight to keep the Privy Council.
Yeah, there's an element, of course, the witness protection program, and that has been spoken about for so many years. I mean, it's so important to get that component fixed and right. I think with that we'll get more people coming out and saying, listen, if I have to go to court, if I have to say a whistleblower, whatever the case may be, that protection program is one that is working on par.
Yes. Well, we must remember the worst time that the witness protection program was under the then stewardship of the Minister of National Security, of Stuart Young, where we saw where persons who were state witnesses were being killed. We also saw where a lady who was staying at a home, that home, the gentleman who she had to testify against, the gentleman was able to find her. But thankfully, she was able to be saved and helped. And that was under the then Stuart Young, who was Minister of National Security. I spoke on that platform, actually.
All right. Very important there. And what are some of the other things? I mean, really and truly, because when you ask the average citizen, how much confidence they have in the justice system, judiciary, they don't seem to have that much belief that is serving everyone.
Sorry, Mike, you broke up there. Is it again?
Yeah, I mean, when you ask the average citizen as far as how much confidence they have in our justice system, it doesn't seem to have much or any at all. Many people say, listen, I don't think it's meant for the poor man. I mean, you hear this narrative all the time. I don't think it's meant for the average citizen. It's only for a selected few. And with that mindset, and the fact that moving forward, I mean, how difficult then would it be to actually to restore or bring about this reform where people would feel as though they're accepted and they're a part of it, of something that is going to bring about justice for all?
Well, you see, the fact that the normal man on the Clapham bus, when I was taught in England, we always call the normal citizen the man on the Clapham bus. It is unfortunate that our people have to think this way, and that is why the reform must come through, where they must have a ministry of justice. And that ministry will be put in place to ensure that our judicial system is taken care of. I'll give you an example. If you recall, when we had a big earthquake in 2018, and it led to some of our courts being damaged physically. One was the Princess Town Court, and money was put forward to fix those courts. What has happened? Is the Princess Town Court fixed? We don't know. And then we went into COVID. Then came virtual court. But virtual court, I have always said, is sometimes virtual nightmare. There are times when you can't even log in. You have clients who don't have internet access. What about the elderly who has to go to court to seek justice, and they don't even know sometimes how to use a smartphone? So I am saying that in some way or the other, we should look to have back physical court reopening. We could still have a hybrid. I mean, there is a hybrid existing, because I've had to do both physical and virtual court. But I think the time now has come where the courts can reopen, where persons can go to court.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to pay a ticket, Mikey. A man can go to the court and pay a ticket. Now you have to go through the court pay system, you have to go online, you have to pay, and sometimes it doesn't be registered. I know what happens. The court have you as not paying a ticket. What happens there? As summons get put out for you, you're dragged before the court. Virtually, of course. Yeah. And then you have to tell the magistrate, well, ma'am, sir, I tried paying it online, it didn't get through. And you know what they tell you? We in the digital age, sir. That's a poor excuse. And sometimes you get double, you have to pay a lawyer to try and talk for you to get where you have to get.
Yeah, you're right about that. Let me ask you, because I did ask the same question to Oropouche East MP, Dr. Rudal Monilal. Do you believe that the United National Congress has what it takes to fight this general election on its own?
Well, Mikey, in 2000, we did it as the United National Congress. We are a party that is strong. We are all over. People are saying it's time for the UNC to come back into office. We as a party, we are all over. We are in every constituency. We are having all our machinery being put in place. But we must also remember that we are the United National Congress, my friend. And we are a party that will work with anyone and everyone. But the United National Congress has done it before, and we can do it again, led by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar Senior Counsel. And anybody who wants to get on board, feel free to join the UNC and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar.
Yeah, I know you've seen it. I've seen you active in many of the chats, and you've tried to extinguish some of the narratives that may not seem positive when people express themselves. But do you believe that this is just a matter of people? Is it just open expression, and once the bell rings, everyone is going to fall in line and realize what's important, and that is saving this country?
My friend, everyone who wants to say what they have to say, under the Constitutional Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, everyone entitled to free speech. However, as I tell everyone, the UNC has a plan, and that plan is led by Mrs. Bissessar, who I stand with, and we shall ensure that we will win the next general election. And we must tell people as it is, that if you want to be in government, join the UNC, join Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar Senior Counsel, and let us remove this evil, wicked, uncaring government. A government that has brought you property tax, a government that has brought you crime that is out of control, a government that has brought you no jobs, no proper housing, no proper drainage. I mean, look, Mikey, how much times in the weeks must we see flooding, not only in Port of Spain, but outside of Port of Spain, you are seeing flooding, especially within the east-west corridor. Poor health care. Imagine your people still still in the corridors of this hospital. Well, the Minister of Health, I wonder if he went to the hospital to be treated. I don't know. Maybe he did. So, my friend, people will talk, people will say, but at the end of the day, when that bell is rung, we must understand, it's either you want pressure and heartache, or you want good governance, what you got between 2010 and 2015. And that was done by the United National Congress, led by Mrs. Prasad Visesa.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. Best of luck to you and your entire team, and please stay safe, my friend.
Before
Go ahead.
I go, let me just say, as you know, we just came out of Ganesh Utsav celebrations. I had the chance of attending in Felicity. It was exceptional. We are going. I know there's another celebration coming, which is called Picture Pact. So I would like to wish those party celebrations as well to the Hindu community out of Ganesh Utsav, and to all. I want to say to Trinidad and Tobago, to our nation, that we need good governance, and that good governance is under the United National Congress, my friend.
Thank you so much again. Keep up the good work, and best of luck to you and your entire team.
Thank you, and to you too.
Thank you.